How's it going today, guys? Welcome back to the channel. First of all, I just kind of want to start by saying I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy, all that good stuff, and my thoughts go out to all of you guys and your families and all that kind of stuff. Just hope everybody's doing well. Today's video is going to be all about what to look for when you're buying a Fox Body Mustang. Now, I have seen a number of videos on this and people explaining what you need to look for, all that kind of stuff, which is great. This one's going to be a little bit different because there are going to be a few things that I can actually show you on my car that are indicators that you might not necessarily want to buy that car. You might want to look elsewhere if you have a choice. Now, the things I'm showing you on my car specifically that are kind of messed up aren't really deal breakers, but they're indicators that there was a problem, that the car's been in an accident, and a lot of times you don't know how far back that's going to go into other areas of the car. So basically, you know, first of all, the first thing you want to look for is, you know, obviously make sure the car's running good. It's not making any weird noises. All the gears in the transmission work, all that kind of stuff. It's not overheating, anything like that. Don't pay, you know, top dollar for a car that might have something wrong with it. So that's that really goes over most of the engine stuff that I have. You know, a lot of those things can be fixed fairly easily, and it's not that big of a deal. What I'm primarily going to focus on here is structural stuff. And if you've been following the channel, then you know you're not going to be surprised by a few of the things that I'm going to show you. But if it's your first time here, or you're just coming for this video, then it may be really helpful.
Okay, so one of the first things that I would look at is the radiator support. Now, the lower portion of the radiator support. Now you can see this one all up through here. It's all wavy, and that's because it's all kinds of dented. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it real well down there. Yeah, you can definitely see that. That's all bad. A lot of the times people will jack their cars up from the radiator support, which is very stupid because it messes them up. This one, by the amount of damage that's there, I would guess that somebody hit a curb with it. It didn't have the fog light bracket on it when I got the car, so you know, it may have hit a parking curb or something, or maybe somebody just tried to jack it up from there, or did jack it up from there a number of times. Now, moving on, we're just gonna kind of move up here. Now, the other thing you want to check, and this doesn't have damage on my car, and it's kind of hard to show, but just for frame of reference here, this is these are the strut towers right here, and what you want to look for is rust up in there. In California, we don't really have that issue a whole lot as far as cars rusting, but you definitely want to get up under there and take a look if you can, especially if the car doesn't have fender liners, because you know you can get a lot of water sprayed up there that just sits there and can create rust issues. Now, another thing, you want to look at the top of the core support, and you know that might not give, this right here may not give you a good indication, but these areas along the tops of the sides will give you a definite indication. You see that right there? Let's get the flashlight right here. There's a good angle. That right there, that is a big old weld. And it doesn't really, it just, if you can see right there, it just goes along the top there. So what happened was somebody replaced the radiator support, the whole thing, and they just basically, you know, cut it and then welded this part onto the top. So that is a huge indicator that the car has been in an accident. If these cars, if the radiator support hasn't been messed with it all, then that's all going to be one. You're not going to have, you know, especially these are kind of, to be honest, they're kind of a little messy. It's not horrible, but the thing is this is kind of hard to tell with the fender on, and I will show you what I mean. Okay, so I just set the fender on loosely in place here, and it is by no means adjusted or anything like that, but you know, generally it's gonna kind of sit like that. So it does cover up a lot of what was happening right here. Yeah, but you can still see it. If you look up underneath this this spot where the fender attaches, then you can still see those welds underneath it. And also, let's see, where is it? This spot right here, you can see that's cracked right there. That metal is completely broken away, and I covered that in one of my other videos. And let's get that put down. That goes all the way up to there and down to the bottom to one of those holes. So that thing just completely broke. My guess is when it was in a crash, it developed some small cracks that either weren't noticed or weren't addressed. And over time, you know, it rattled a lot from the car driving, and those cracks got bigger and eventually just split all the way out to the ends. Okay, so that pretty much covers kind of the things you want to look for in the front end, okay? So you want to look for any abnormal welds, any damage to the lower or upper core support, any damage to the inside of the engine bay, and your strut towers. Now, the strut towers are going to be very difficult to see if they have liners in them, but sometimes you can see little rust issues from the top, things like that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the doors. Okay. All right, so a lot of the times these areas down here, you know, anywhere throughout here, you can get rust issues from water, you know, seeping in, resting on the hinges, things like that. Again, California car, not usually a big deal, but one thing that can be a big deal, if you look down here, right here, I don't know how well you can see that, and I left my flashlight up on the top of the car. So that's basically a cutout that serves as a drain for the door. Now, if that thing oftentimes will get plugged up with just gunk and dirt and whatever else gets inside your door. If the window's ever been broken, you know, the glass can just sit at the bottom there and plug that up. If that gets plugged up, there could be rust issues anywhere else in the bottom of the door. You know, again, something that you kind of want to stay away from if you have a choice. We're going to move on to a problem that I am currently experiencing. And this is door to panel fitment, okay guys? Now, these doors and the bodies should line up fairly well. And if not, you should be able to look at it and go, okay, well, this can be adjusted or that can be adjusted. This line right here should line up, and the gaps, when you run your hand across it, should feel smooth. So, what I'm dealing with this car is down here, the door sticks out further than the body, than the quarter. Right here, it sticks out a little bit further. Up here, the door, right here, the door actually sits in, and that's because I adjusted it as far in as I could to try and get things to kind of match up. And then up here again, the it sticks out. Like, see, I can't, so you can rub your finger along this just fine. That right there, it catches. So that's what I mean by that. A lot of times that can indicate a twisted or damaged door.
The other thing you're looking for is the belt molding to quarter window molding alignment. And as you can see, this is way off. I mean, that one sits down quite a bit lower than that. So what that tells me is that this door has had some damage in the past. Another thing you're looking for too are, door gap alignment. You want the door gaps to be the same on the sides. They shouldn't be too big on the bottoms. Like this one, I can pretty much get, the tip of my pinky in there. And on the other side, not so much. But the thing is, I adjusted that door and I set it like that because if that gap is any better at the bottom, then this doesn't line up right here, and then that line right there that my finger's on doesn't line up. So this door has problems. I will be replacing the door. That panels like that aren't the biggest deal in the world, but again, that can be another indicator on, previous problems or anything like that. We'll move along to the hatch here. Now, your hatch lines everything should feel nice and flush along here, and along the top. Everything should line up well. Mine doesn't. And sometimes that can come from, the struts when you lift it up. A lot of times, sometimes when those things go bad, they, one of them will lock up and you won't know it, and you'll try and, pull the hatch down and you only get one side, and that can actually twist the hatch. Not the biggest deal in the world there, because you can always replace the hatch if you need to. They can be kind of difficult to find in good shape, but that is a possibility. But it can also be an indication of a rear end collision. So, it's a good idea if you do find some misalignment there, then, look other places. Look for panel alignment from the bumper to the ground effects, or, if you've got a, even if you don't have a GT, the LXs still have molding. So look for alignment in the moldings, and where the quarter meets the bumper here, that can be an indication. Look for the gaps over the tail lights right there. Again, that can be an adjustment issue, but it can also mean that there's something else going on. And if along the way, you're finding things in combination with each other, that could mean that the car was in an accident. Now, yeah, we have Carfaxes and all that stuff, but back in the early 90s, when these cars, late 90s, when these cars were being handed back and forth to friends and family members and all that kind of stuff quite a bit, then, we didn't have Carfax. So, that information might not be available to you. So, I think that pretty much covers it. Just so I have something to give you a little example of, this is an example of a door that has been adjusted pretty properly. It's not quite perfect. I still have to mess with the striker, but as you can see, that line right there, that's good. That body line is pretty good. This door has a little bit of a twist to it. These can actually be kind of bent back in place. That's not that big of a deal. If it's up here and it's out, especially if it's just a little bit like this one, that can be bent back into place. But the real thing that you're looking for is that belt molding to quarter window. Okay, so that pretty much covers all of the things that I can show you on the car. Now, another huge thing that you want to look at, you want to get up underneath the back of the car and look at the torque boxes. The torque boxes are what connect the control arms to the body of the car. And those things, I've seen those bad on a car with a completely stock motor. You don't have to have a modified car in order to have bad torque boxes, you just have to have a car that's been beat on and not taken care of. You want to make sure they're not twisted, they're not damaged. Those can be very, very, very expensive and difficult to repair. Same with the strut towers. You know, those are two very important areas that are probably some of the most difficult to repair on one of these cars. So now keep in mind that, you know, a lot of the stuff that I showed you doesn't necessarily mean that it's a make or break situation, especially with, you know, the panel alignment, or, you know, like the doors to the fenders or the doors to the quarters, or even the hatch. In a lot of cases, those can be adjusted. You can adjust strikers, you can adjust hinges, all that stuff. That can all be done, but what you're looking for are those things in combination with things that also don't look right. Because if you've got that, then you may want to dig a little bit deeper and figure out, you know, what caused it and why it's like that. And, you know, a lot of people are asking quite a bit of money for these cars. It's not uncommon, at least in, you know, my area of Northern California here, to see a fairly decent looking car go for, you know, somebody wants $5 or $6 grand for it. Inspect these things really well, because the last thing that you want to do is shell out a bunch of money, you know, maybe your entire budget, for something that you're thinking that you're going to be able to drive around and put some mods on and all that kind of stuff, and then only to later find out that, oh my God, there's a bunch of repair work that you have to do that's going to be really costly, that takes away from all the fun. Because believe me, I would love to be able to throw every dollar I have at the performance of this car. I would love to be able to start building a motor and, you know, getting everything looking good, dump money into a paint job, all that kind of stuff. But as it sits right now, I've got to find more body panels. You know, I got to find a door. I got to figure out what to do with the hatch. I'd like the hatch to align better than it does. It's honestly not that bad. You know, it could have just gotten twisted from somebody messing with it. You know, there's a number of things that can cause those. I've definitely seen worse, but I would like it to align a little bit better. So, you know, I'd love to be able to just roll with all that stuff. But unfortunately, I'm in a position where I need to get these other things taken care of beforehand. And, you know, that leaves me in a situation where I either have to pay somebody to do it, or I have to do it myself. And I will tell you what, these core supports, the radiator supports on these cars, are getting harder and harder and harder to find by the day in good shape. The ones that you can get from LMR, they're just half of it. They're just like the front piece. You have to have the other pieces to weld into them to make them work. So there's nothing, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but as of right now, I haven't seen anything out there that you can just replace the whole thing with. So in my case, I'm waiting to find a good core support so that I can fix what's going on over here. Who knows how long that's going to be, you know what I mean? And the other thing is too, is along with the sale of the cars, guys, people also want quite a bit of money for these parts. If you want something that's going to be a solid starting point with really good bones, these are the things to look for, okay? It's all the structural stuff, because the performance stuff and the making it look good stuff can come much sooner if structurally you're there. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all the views, all the support, all that good stuff, and I hope everybody stays safe and healthy. I know I already said that, but I guess right now, you know, it's kind of the time. So I hope you have a good one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.